All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight via Zoom. My name is Jason Moore, and I'm with Corporate Communications for the city, and tonight happy to be helping facilitate this meeting. For those of you who are new to Zoom, welcome. I hope you like it, but I also hope we can get back to in-person meetings again for the next time. We have a couple of ways you can ask questions of Councillor Kaschak and others. We have the Q&A feature, and I see somebody has already used it. You should see that along the bottom of your screen, and you can simply type out your question in there and we'll read it out loud and get it answered by the appropriate people. The other option is to click the raise hand icon and you can ask the question yourself that way. I only ask that you keep your questions as concise as possible and we'll do our best to have them answered. That's the Zoom background. Now to the meeting. We're here to specifically discuss Ward 8 and the issues and opportunities for Ward 8. This is the third of 10 ward-specific Zoom meetings that we're hosting over the course of this month. And next, as always, we encourage those with issues or opportunities specific to their ward to bring them up during their meeting. This way, we can all stay focused on the ward at hand as much as possible. Joining us tonight is, of course, Ward 8 Councillor Gary Kaschak, but also Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins, and a number of administrative staff are here to help answer any questions the councillor or the mayor might wish to defer. There is an hour slated for this meeting, and if we need it, we'll use it. But for anyone who may have only a short time to give us tonight, we'll be trying to get the full meeting up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Lastly, if you should have a question that we don't get to this evening or that comes to mind later, you can always email your ward councillor, the mayor's office, or 311 afterwards. Now that we know what we're here for, I'd like to ask Councillor Kaschak to activate his microphone and share a few words to get this discussion going. Councillor?
Thanks very much, Jason, and good evening, everyone. It's happy to be here. This is my my third ward meeting since being elected, and it's my third different meeting, of course. Some of you recall 2019, we did the personal meeting at the church on Rivard Street, and 2020 was via telephone, and 2021 via Zoom. So happy to be here, and happy to have the mayor with me and city administration who work so hard for our city. Let me start by stating some of the accomplishments that have happened in Ward 8 here in the past year, and certainly about some upcoming projects as well. So Rhodes and Sewers is always a good place to start here. It's been an active construction season, as you know, in Windsor here, driving around, but Norman Road was done last year in 2020, and in November of this year, you'll expect the second layer of asphalt to be laid on the Norman Road area from Tecumseh Road to Adstall. So that'll be upcoming to finish that project. Olive Road from Malloy to Tecumseh Road is ongoing right now and nearing the stages of paving and finishing and some yard maintenance. So really happy with that project, and that'll complete the Olive Road corridor from South National to Tecumseh Road. So really good things happening there. And in 2022 here, we can expect a couple good construction projects. Westminster Street from Tecumseh Road to Adstall is going to be under road rehabilitation. That's a badly needed area that's going to get done. We're looking at to do a mill and pave, which is be a repair of a nice new layer of asphalt on Rivard Street from Adstall to Rose as well in 2022. And also Joe St. Louis is slated to finally get done as well from Tecumseh Road to Rose Street. So Madonna, if you're listening, good news for you, as I it's stated in the past for 2022. 2023, I'm hoping to get the 3200 block of Clemenceau done. The residents there were kind enough to sign up a petition. We had 70% plus of the residents signed. So right now it looks to be slated for 2023 or 2024. I'm pushing hard though to get this done for you in 2023, which would complete the entire stretch of Clemenceau Road rehabilitation there. So good things happening there. We've had numerous sidewalks installed. There's a nice bit of Rivard Street from Rose to Adstall that had some sidewalk work done. Ferndale and Ford from Lasaline to Tecumseh and from Coronation to Tecumseh were done. And in 2022, the Roseville Gardens area will see some definite sidewalk improvements in that area as well too. So good things happening on the roads and infrastructure front. I know we still got some concerns with flooding in some of the areas here in Windsor, and those streets are on my list to be upcoming down the road. Ford Boulevard from Tecumseh to South National, Buckingham Boulevard, Westminster as well. So those are going to be discussed further, and we might even have some questions in the meeting here tonight. So let's move on to parks now, and parks is had a really good resurgence here in Windsor. Really happy with what administration has been able to do here for the residents in Ward 8 and throughout the city. I mean, you've seen terrific improvements here already at Polonia Park, where we recently completed the park, installed the asphalt trail. And in conjunction with the city and CUPE Local 82, we just put 25,000 worth of solar lights into that park. So a terrific public safety enhancement of that park, and very happy to see that. A TD Park on the far east end of the ward that crosses over into Ward 7. We put a new pedestrian bridge across Little River out there earlier this year. So a really nice walkability feature that was almost $500,000, and that was done this year. So really good trail system that we have out on the east end here. So please use that. Shawnee Park in the back of Fontainebleau as well. Had this done last year with expanding the trail to 9 meters wide, and we added some solar lights in there as well. So very good start with the parks. Meadowbrook Park in the Meadowbrook area is going to get a brand new walking trail as well. That construction has actually started today. So that's a $300,000 project that's starting today, and it's going to take a couple weeks, or probably about 6 weeks, but it'll be ready to go before the winter season. So real good news. Of course, the big announcement about the splash pad in Fontainebleau Park. They're going to start some subsurface work here in November to get some of the underground work done, and then the construction will start in the spring of 2022, and that splash pad is scheduled to be open along with the rest of them when they open in 2022. So terrific news. Some good news that I just got this week about Roseville Gardens Park as well. We're going to do trail improvements there with some new benches, and I'm hoping to do some lighting there as well too. About a $225,000 investment into another park in Ward 8. So things are happening, out on the East End quite well. We're going to actually do a public consultation about Kinsman Park. That's the park that's off Alice Street, tucked in between Olive and Norman. We've got a tentative November date here, and that'll come out where we'll do a Zoom consultation. Maybe we can do a public consultation, but likely a Zoom consultation as to what you would like to see in that park. That's a big open area, which I have some ideas, and so does city administration. We definitely like to get something into that park for sure. That's a badly needed area that needs some amenities for the residents. Next year, we're going to see some amenities, playground improvements in Coletta Park, Thurston Park, and Shawnee Park as well. And we're talking about $750,000 in the brand new playground equipment. So every park is got something on the go here in Ward 8 right now or next year. And then the next park I'm going to look at is Coronation Park, also known as Pikes Park off Last Lane Street there between Ford and Ferndale, as that needs some amenities. I just did a walkthrough with the manager of Parks, James Chaco, there a couple weeks ago about some potentials for that. So certainly, as you can see, I'm a big parks guy here, and that's what I want to see moving forward for the residents. We've had some transit improvements as well. A lot of you know that the 1C transit route was used to go down Rivard Street and then made a left on Rose through Roseville Gardens and back to Tecumseh Road. That has been eliminated. That was a duplication of a route. So we're saving on some gas, some emissions. The Ottawa 4 covers that area quite nicely as well. And you'll have seen many new concrete pads for accessibility reasons that have been built throughout the ward, and also some new shelters for transit as well too. So lots of things happening here for sure. The next item that I always like to talk about is traffic calming, and that's a situation that's all throughout Windsor, and it's something that's needed in our ward. We're seeing still a little bit too aggressive of driving in neighborhoods. I had a proposal to reduce all residential speed limits in Windsor here to 40 kilometers, and it didn't happen initially, but I think it will after we go through our Vision Zero consultation, and there's a committee that's looking at that. We're looking at some speed humps. We have the please slow down signs. We're going to paint into some of the roads, slow down in certain intersections. For example, like a Clemenceau and Rose Street could certainly use something like that. Queen Elizabeth and Rivard could use something like that. And of course, we've got always some issues around schools with with a little bit of speeding. We'd like to get some school zone and some lights into those areas as well too. The Pilette Road traffic calming endeavor is in play now as well. Mr. Jeff Hagan and I, along with the residents, did a really nice Zoom presentation back in July. We would like to put a pedestrian crossover. Actually, the first one would be in the ward on Pilette Street and Adstall, in that Adstall-Somme intersection there, so that it'll slow the traffic down. The lights will come on so that the residents, and especially the people going to school, can have a easy crossover at that intersection. So as I say, lots of things happening. Busy. I'm enjoying the job. As most of you know, I get back to you. I'm easy to get a hold of. I get back to the residents with their concerns and questions quite fast. We have a terrific city administration staff that I rely on extensively. Good rapport with the mayor and city council, and we're getting things done here. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Dilkens, and he's going to say a few words, and then after that, we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kaschak, and thank you for that wonderful summary of all of the things that are happening in Ward 8, and you have been working really hard, and Gary's been very, very passionate about getting things done in parks and traffic calming and lots of important initiatives, and I'm glad to see we're getting lots of traction on that front, and he's doing just a fine job out there for all the residents. And you got into some of the details here. Let me go a little higher level and just talk about some of the other important things from my desk and my perspective. Obviously, Windsor Works and the news that we received with the Stellantis project just in the last week here, obviously very, very hard for about 1,800 families, plus all of the spinoff in the community. We are not, we have not forgotten about this. And I think I'll take you back to my 2018 inaugural speech where I said we need to become more resilient as a community for these types of announcements, or build in some shock absorbers, so to speak, so that we are more resilient as a community to deal with the impacts of these types of announcements. And we have a plan. It's called Windsor Works. It's our community's economic diversification strategy. It was approved unanimously by City Council. It has been partially funded by City Council. And in fact, the implementation plan was already on the City Council agenda 2 weeks ago to come to the October 25th meeting. And so we will be discussing this at our next meeting. And we have really great plans in store to make sure that we can ensure that our city is resilient. There are shock absorbers in place, and that we're doing all that we can to really work on the LIFT strategy that's outlined in the plan, which is location, infrastructure, future talent, and future economy and talent. So all of these things are really important, and we've got the plan, and we're going to execute that plan, and the administration is solidly behind it, which is everyone rowing in the same direction, which is what the residents need to know, is we are all rowing in the same direction, because we are all in the same boat here, and we want to see our community thrive. And this is the way for us to do that. Also want to touch on the hospital. Many of you will have seen that the Premier was in the city just a couple of days ago, along with the Minister of Health, Christine Elliott, and it was the formal announcement. Of course, it had been mentioned in the budget. It had been mentioned in the speech from the throne. It's been discussed for years in the community, but it was that conversation, that budget item, almost $10 million, that actually moved the hospital project from, if it ever happened, to when it gets built. And so that $10 million will allow David Mouche and the team at Windsor Regional Hospital to spend the next 18 months to 24 months undertaking consultation, but also designing the hospital, getting in the nitty gritty, putting tape on the floor, figuring out the right size for the operating rooms, the hallways, all the different services that are delivered, and making sure that the hospital that we need to build here is the right size hospital. It's appropriate, that everything flows nicely. And I think if there's one thing we've all learned in the middle of a pandemic, is that healthcare is really, really important. And some of the facilities we have are just not up to snuff. It is no longer acceptable to have 5 people sharing a ward room with a bathroom down the hall. And nothing but like a pandemic to show you the importance of having single rooms and being able to isolate people. And of course, the new hospital we're talking about, the single site acute care hospital, will have more than 80% of the rooms will be private rooms, single rooms. On the finance side, Gary talked a lot about a lot of the work that we have done in Ward 8. You read about a lot of the things that we do in the city. And I can tell you that we have not taken our foot off the gas on the capital side or on our budget. We managed to be made entirely whole last year on the finance side, despite the pandemic and the challenges we had. The federal government and provincial government came in to make sure that this community was made whole, as they did for many other communities. We still have some challenges, about $10 million worth of challenges tracking to the end of the year, almost entirely related to the operations of the airport and tunnel, which have been the service there dramatically reduced because of the pandemic. But other than that, we are doing really well here. We have a $1.6 billion capital plan over the next 10 years, $170 million being spent this year. 60% of that goes to roads and sewers. So when we talk about flooding, whether it's road flooding, whether it's basement flooding, we have the sewer master plan, which is council's plan, a $5 billion plan that will touch every ward in this city and make improvements that will help us become more resilient to the effects of climate change and these high intensity storms. We talk about the 1 in 100 year storm. Well, we've seen that several years in a row. And so we know that things are changing in the environment and we need to be more resilient as a community. But you also know that the sewers that are under our feet took 127 years to be installed. That's the 127, 128 years to be installed under our feet. And it's not going to change in 10 years. But we've got a plan to make sure that this community from side to side, top to bottom, will be certainly treated very well to make sure that we are dealing with the effects of climate change moving forward. And we've got the money and the dedication and the commitment from council to make sure that happens. And let me just end before we turn it back to Councillor Kaschak for questions and just thank those who are on the phone here. Thanks to all the administrators who are taking 10 nights out to be here on these calls with every member of council, but thanks to the residents too. I know the last 20 months has been difficult. It's been difficult for council and the leadership team and every family and every school teacher. And, every single person has had some, something in their life that has changed, some frustration because of COVID and the impacts and the rules that have been put in place. And I recognize and acknowledge that it has not been easy. And I want to thank you for working with us and working with City Council as we've had to guide our community through a very difficult time, the likes of which we've never seen before in our history. And I think we're almost at the tail end of this. The vaccination rates are certainly very high. If we can get them just a bit higher, the scientists say that we'll be in that herd immunity area, which is where we all want to be. Positive news that the border is opening and there are changes coming with respect to restaurants and gatherings as well. So we're getting to a point where I think life is going to be closer to being back to normal. And I agree, hope next year that we're actually in person having this meeting. There's nothing like meeting people and looking them in the face and being able to have a good conversation about what's going on in the city, but also to hear your ideas and trying to factor that in as we get into our budget, which we're going to do in the middle of December this year. Our 2022 budget will be done in December 13th or 15th this year. And we'll set the course for 2022 and we're excited about it. I truly, despite some of the news from Stellantis and some of the challenges that we have with COVID, I can tell you I remain extremely optimistic about the future of the community. I look at the Gordie Howe Bridge, I look at the hospital project as two mega public sector projects, but all of the private sector development that we are seeing, we have never seen this in decades and decades and decades in the city. There are huge pockets of optimism. We're leaning into those optimistic areas, and we're going to continue to build and implement our Windsor Works strategy, which will continue to create pathways in this community for my own kids who are high school aged and university to find gainful employment here and enjoy the quality of life that each and every one of us has enjoyed right here in the city of Windsor. Gary, thanks very much for a few minutes to chat, and I'll turn it back to you.
Well, thanks very much, Mayor Wilkins, and always good to hear from the mayor. And he's such a positive guy and such a promoter of Windsor that it's always good to hear what the mayor has to say. Jason, I'll give it back to you. And you got a couple questions for the mayor and I?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. But before we get to the questions, I just want to remind everyone that they can ask questions at any time. You don't have to wait for one person to finish, so you can put your question either written or put the hand up. We'll see everything, so you don't have to wait in line, so to speak, before you put your question forward. Our first question comes to us about Paulette and Grand Maris, and the person writes, I wonder if your plan to install metal rail or guard along Paulette just across from Grand Maris for safety reasons is still in the plan.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And that could be from a resident, Eleanor, that she lives in one of those pretentious type areas that's a little bit dangerous. There's been a couple accidents in front of her house, and I'm actually in the process right now of getting a costing on that, Eleanor, as to what it would cost to put a guardrail in front of some of the, your home and a couple others in that area to see what we can do from a public safety standpoint. So I'll get back to you on that, probably in a week or two, and I should have some numbers and an answer for you. But just to follow up on that whole traffic calming, area is in play. As I stated in my opening remarks there, that whole area is being looked at, narrowing the road, creating some parking on the west side of Pilat and slowing down traffic. I know some of the residents would have liked a traffic light at Grand Maris and Pilat, but that wasn't in the plans. But I think we can make things a little safer and a little more traffic calmed in that area with some of those other features.
Very good. And I can just tell you, Eleanor wrote back already saying, thank you, Councillor. So well done.
Okay, thank you.
Next question comes from Dorota. Is there a chance to put motion to either prohibit hitched utility trailers being parked on residential areas or make a bylaw that any hitched trailer should be parked on driveways? A couple of long ones in the area of her home, I assume, and taking up parking spaces.
Yeah, this has become a bit of an issue here throughout the city here lately with trailers that are hitched to trucks or sitting on the roads. They do have this 72-hour rule where they can stay in place and then they have to be moved. But that's a good question as far as a bylaw moving forward. I know it usually involves our parking enforcement and also our parking department. Is Mr. Kolovensky available, or Shauna? Is that something that you could add in on that topic, please?
Hi, good evening, Councillor. Thanks for the question. You're right there. The bylaw does have a number of things related to the trailers and the hitching. Obviously, you're not allowed to have an unhitched trailer on the road. The hitched trailers have time limits, and it's not something that has actually been brought forward as a need for us to bring to council for a change. But that being said, if there is a need, we can definitely look into it and make some recommendations.
Thanks, Shauna, and I appreciate that added context. And and maybe this is something that I can do a council question at an upcoming meeting and get an administration report and see if we can moving forward, because parking is valuable in the area, and some of these these vehicles with the trailers on the back are taking up 3 and 4 spots and sometimes not moving for days. Our parking enforcement sometimes just needs a phone call and a nudge to go out there and inspect those type of things. But I'd like to see a further report on this, and I'll move that at City Council. Thank you.
Very good. One thing I want to get to before too long here. Last time we did the meeting with Councillor Sleeman, I forgot to get to the poll questions until very late in the meeting. So I just want to see if we can get to one of our poll questions. We just want to survey the people that are on the call, see what they think. So I'll just ask Anna to pull up the first poll question, and you'll be able to vote for this, anyone on the call. And the question is, what are your 2 main priorities in Ward 8? It's multiple choice. You can pick parks, infrastructure, which is roads, sewers, etc., community public safety, traffic calming, or is there something else that we're not thinking of? So if you can answer that question, we'll be able to get a quick review of what the people think and share it with everyone. Just give everyone a couple of seconds to have their vote. Again, what are your 2 main priorities in Ward 8? Multiple choice. All right, I think we're getting most of the votes in by now, Councillor.
All right.
A couple more seconds. Are you able to see it, or can I tell you what it says?
I can see the priorities in Ward 8 and the 5 choices, but I'm not seeing any results, Jason. So please.
Okay, well, I can tell you. Maybe I'm the only one that can see that.
Sure.
Yeah, infrastructure, community, and traffic calming are all splitting the vote. There's a few for parks and a couple of others, but the majority go infrastructure, community public safety, and traffic calming. Any surprise there to you?
Not really, because if you went back to my opening statements, I think we've got parks covered pretty good here into what we're doing and what's coming up in the next couple of years. Traffic calming is certainly a big issue, and it's been since I've been elected. that doesn't surprise me. And the infrastructure, we still have some problems with combined sewers on streets like Buckingham and Ford and Westminster in that area, in the Glendale area. So that certainly we need some improvements there. And anything to do with the community is certainly really important. So that's not really surprising. But I appreciate that those numbers and something for me to focus on even more. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. I'll take us to the next question now. Councillor Kaschak, where is the crossing light going to be on Paulette? This is a two-part question. I'll give you that part first. Where's the crossing light going
Sure.
to be on Paulette?
So it's a funny corner there, as the resident would probably know, on Paulette. There's two cross streets, Adstall Street and Somme Street. Somme, going towards the west towards McDonald Park, and Adstall Street, going towards the east towards Rivard. So it looks like it's going to go, it's not 100% sure yet. Ms. Tafuli can give us an update, but it's in that vicinity of between Adstall and Somme, which is 100-foot, long stretch. It's going to go in that area. So people can cross that coming from Herman High School along Somme Street and reconnect back to Paulette and Adstall moving forward. But Rania, would you have any update on that? I know it's still in our infancy, and Jeff and I have spoke about it, but any updates from traffic planning?
Yeah, so the traffic calming plan is currently being finalized, and hopefully within the next month we will have the survey out to residents, and that'll detail exactly where everything is going. But from the PIC, we can see that the preliminary plans had it right between Somme and Adstall Avenue, just like you mentioned.
Right, so right in that area, and that's been a contentious area since I lived in the Fontainebleau area and going to Herman High School, walking through that area, kind of a dangerous little intersection with a lot of traffic that was coming and going north and south on Paulette. So that's the plan. I'm looking forward. Thanks, Rania, for the the final design. We'll get that out to the residents, and then get the residents to give the okay on that, and then we'll move that forward. But I think that's a pedestrian crossing always slows down traffic, and it's a good street to do it on.
Very good. Here's part two to that question. Is there any way to educate pedestrians to not push for the light and immediately step into traffic?
Well, yeah, I think there is for sure. And pedestrian crossings are fairly new in Windsor. There's been a couple that have been installed on Wyandotte Street and on Prince Road and a few other areas of the city. But I think there is a bit of an education process involved that, you have to press the button. You got to ensure that the lights come on, and you should look left or right to make sure that, the cars are stopping for sure, because it's not a guarantee. You're taking your life into your own hands if you don't sort of do the stop and do the left, right, left type of look. So certainly an education process would come there. We would, again, have probably another public meeting and some literature that would go out to the residents in the area when that is installed, and give some tips and tricks on how to navigate those pedestrian crossings in a safe manner.
Very good, Councillor. And one more time, I'm just going to mention to people that they can use the chat, the hand up signal if they want to talk themselves. Maybe we're all shy tonight, which is fine. Keep typing those questions in and we'll keep reading them, but you are welcome to talk as well. The next question comes, will the Westminster Boulevard Road rehab include water main connections into the house, and will there be a charge to homeowners? Will street lighting be approved as well? I can repeat that if that's...
Yeah, one more time, if you would, Jason,
Yeah.
just while I look for that sheet there. Yeah.
So the question is, will the Westminster Boulevard Road rehab include water main connections into the homes, and will there be a charge to homeowners? That's part A. And then part B, will street lighting be improved and traffic control? So it's kind of a three-part, really.
And that's a good question. I know I've spoken with the resident, Mr. Marshall, there before. So the sewers on that street are actually in the alley from Adstall Street to Tecumseh Road. So I don't believe, and I'm gonna turn this over to Chris Nepsey or Fahad soon, that there's going to be any type of water main changes in that area, because I believe the sewers are in good shape. This is pretty much just a road rehabilitation project from Tecumseh Road onto Adstall, to fix the curbs and the roads and whatnot. But Fahad or Chris, can you add in on to that project that's slated for next year, please?
Yeah, good evening, Councillor. Hello, my name's Chris Nepsey. I'm the new City Commissioner here. So I've been here almost a couple months now. So I'm learning as well. As far as I know, Councillor, Westminster is a partner project with WUC as well. So the water main is getting replaced. As far as the details with respect to water main connections into the house, I have to get caught up on those details exactly. I know typical water main jobs go to the curb stop. In my experience, not all the way to the house, but I'm not sure how WUC operates. So I'd be happy to find that answer and provide that information to both you and the resident. As far as storm, right now it is, as you noted, just a road rehab, but it's something we're looking at as well if there's an opportunity to shift some funds around to take care of that at this point. But right now it's just road and water.
Well, thanks very much, Chris, and I appreciate that. And I knew the road part, but yeah, that does make sense that we would still have the Windsor Utilities doing their water portion on there. That aspect, though, that the resident asks, we'd have to get further clarification, Jason. And if you can get some contact information after I speak further with Chris here, I can certainly get back to the resident with that answer.
Excellent. The other part to that question was about traffic control, and that actually feeds into the next question as well. Somebody else asking for a bit of traffic control. They're saying, can you add Peace Court and Clarence for speed bumps? Peace Court and Clarence for speed bumps.
Yeah, that's an area that I've had some concern from residents here recently. Peace Court is a small little cul-de-sac, which you would thought was a nice serene street here. But there is some couple residents, I believe, that are speeding in that area. I'd certainly like to install some speed humps here moving forward. I think I've got a couple streets in mind. Peace Court or Clarence certainly would be one of them. The thing you got to watch out with speed humps is that if they go on one street, then people avoid that street and go to other streets to avoid the speed humps. But on Peace Court, that can't happen. They'd have to go over the speed humps in that area, and that would probably be a good candidate. I know residents in the 3100 block of Clemenceau have also requested that as well too, some speed humps. So that's on my list. But speed humps is something that's coming. The mayor has put aside $1 million for traffic calming to spread out between the city, and I'll add Peace Court and Clarence to that list for speed humps.
Excellent. I want to get to another poll question in a second, but I have a follow-up to a follow-up from before from Nancy. She's asking between Somme and Adstall is a turn lane. Will the light affect that? Do you know the question from before that was in regards to the light and traffic? Yeah,
that is going to be interesting. I think we'd have to wait, Nancy, until the final design comes out, as Ms. Tafuli said there, that when that comes out, we'll see how that goes. I believe that turn lane will still be in play, because that is a busy little corner there for people coming from Tecumseh Road. But it's also sort of a cut through area as well too. We talk about cut through traffic. If somebody gets that red light at Tecumseh Road going east, a lot of times they'll make that right on Pilette and the left at Adstall going through there just to avoid lights. But then they're going to hit 5 stop signs going all the way to Rivard. So they're really not saving any time. But I'd have to look at the final design to find out. But I believe that turning lane will still be in play there.
Excellent. Let's get to a poll question, and then the questions are starting to trickle down to almost none. So if people are satisfied and they want to get on with their night, that's fantastic too. But we'll do a poll question first, get a couple more questions. Just wanted to give people the heads up that the night could be coming to an end if they don't want to get their question missed. So the poll question this time: which format of ward meetings have you enjoyed the most? The in-person meetings, the telephone town hall meetings from last year, or the Zoom virtual platform that we're trying out this year? So take a couple of seconds to have your say on the poll question. Which format of ward meetings have you enjoyed the most? That's implying you are enjoying them. In-person meetings, telephone town hall, or the Zoom virtual platform. So the answers are coming in. Give it a couple more seconds. Some people are very fast on their answers. Others are probably mulling it over. All right. Well, I'm seeing the majority of them are in, so it looks like very similar to what we found with Councillor Sleeman's time when we did the question with him. In-person meetings, about 44%, and the Zoom platform, 56%. So that's even a little bit higher this time. So, and again, nobody is voting for the telephone town halls.
That's certainly interesting. Yeah, I don't think the telephone town hall went over that well last year. We did split, with two councillors, so maybe that was part of the problem as well too. But, since we've been in this pandemic and this COVID situation, people have gotten quite used to Zoom, and I think people are getting more and more used to it. So I think they don't mind this type of a format. I still like, the personal meeting as well myself, where we get into, a church hall or a basement. We have administration there, and we have some pamphlets and brochures and some displays and some easels with different information. So we're going to definitely keep this in mind moving forward, and certainly give the residents what they want so that they can, talk to their local councillor and anybody else from administration. But, as well, at any time, I'm always available at 519-948-0900 or at email Kaschak@citywindsor.ca.
All right, and Eleanor tells me she wasn't getting to write the poll question. So sorry, Eleanor, sometimes technology is not all of our friend. It is just an unscientific poll anyway. I don't think we're going to make a lot of decisions based on it. I do have a question from Eleanor, though. Can we also improve street lighting south of Paulette Road? Walking along Paulette from Tecumseh at night is quite dark. So that's
it's street lighting sometimes has to be approved by the residents. It's one of those where, again, you get back into that petition type thing. There's some areas, if you were to put streetlights in, they balk at it, the residents. I know, some residents in some of the Buckingham area in the south of Tecumseh didn't want streetlights. But Eleanor, are you talking like some from Paulette to Grand Maris, or more from Paulette to Adstall, or from Grand Maris to Plymouth Street? Jason, if you get an answer, or I don't know.
Sorry, I don't know if she's that fast to type it in.
So let me look into it a little more. Sometimes, though, that streetlights aren't just an automatic. It's you certainly want to put streetlights in on new construction, obviously, right? Because you've got the ground dug up, and it's easier to run conduit and cable and lighting equipment. But to add them, going forward is tricky. They don't recommend solar lights like we're putting in parks on streets. That's not sort of the standard yet. So. I'll refer back to Ms. Boakes there, and Shauna and I have spoken about streetlights before. Shauna, just can you add to that on say from Paulette to Plymouth Road, if they wanted to put some street lighting in there, would we have to petition the neighbors, or is there a city budget for that?
Thank you for the question. That section actually does have a street lighting there. What we would do in that case is we would look at the levels. We would run some calculations, check the levels, and see if they meet the current standards. If they don't meet the current standards, they would go on a list for upgrades, and then upgrades are done as budget allows for based on priority and based on where they came in our list.
Right, from a budget standpoint. And I know that area from Adstall to Grand Maris is part of that new construction a couple of years ago where the former Adstall Arena was. So I think a couple extra streetlights were added in there, Sean, I believe, in that block. But maybe it's that first block from Tecumseh to Adstall where we might want to look at the number of streetlights and the effectiveness. But if the residents were to want to do a petition, is that something that we've seen? I think there's an actual Riverside petition ongoing right now for streetlights, is there not?
That is correct. If a street does not have any lighting on it at all, in order to add lighting to it, we would follow the similar process to the local improvements as sidewalks. So it would have to be a petition for the block to add the street lighting in as part of that local improvement process.
Okay, so maybe between myself and your department, we can have a look at Paulette down the road. I'll do an email, and we can look at that and look at the effectiveness of what we have so far. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Thank you, Eleanor.
Yeah, very good. I have a question here from David. Not necessarily a ward question, but we'll take it here. Although the new Gordie Howe Bridge in Canadian Customs Plaza is not directly in the City Councillor's ward, I was wondering if the councillor has had any discussions, suggestions with the WDBA, BNA relative to his past background experience with the border. For example, no public access space under the land portions of the bridge near the riverfront. So a long question there. I can give it a go again if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I got the gist of it, Jason. And, it's been 3 years since I worked for CBSA. I was elected your city councillor. I retired from my full-time position. So I have not really had any direct talks with CBSA on this. I've had some indirect talks, and I've been to a couple of the Gordie Howe presentations that were at Mackenzie Hall and also via Zoom. But I liked a lot of what I was seeing as far as, bikeability and whatnot in that area and what they were doing around the area. But maybe just one more time, Jason, the lack of public space under the bridge, or too much access of public space?
I think that was just as an example. He was saying, has there been any discussions to deal with the access and such?
Not as of yet, but that's actually a good question, David. And let me put that one aside, and I'll bring it up. And you know what? Actually, I've got a meeting with Councillor Castante, whose ward that is here at the end of the week, and I'll maybe he can relay that question and have an answer for you when it comes to his ward meeting in a week or two.
Right on. Another question about calming measures. What shows the poll question was pretty well on.
Yes.
Will there be a list of streets getting traffic calming measures, and whether that's for you or Mr. Foley, it's up to you.
Yeah, there's certainly streets that I'm aware of. I mean, for example, when we talk about Pilette Road, even north of Tecumseh Road, get a lot of complaints of traffic from Tecumseh Road down to South National. And I know Councillor Sleeman and I, that's the border, the Ward 4 and the Ward 5 and Ward 8 border there. And we've talked about maybe buying a couple of permanent radar speed signs that say how fast you're going in that area. And, you see if you're going 64 that you got to slow down, you're in a 50 zone. So there's other streets, of course, the Glendale, Balfour, Ferndales, Westminster, Buckingham on the north side are still 50 kilometers in that area, where the south side of Tecumseh is 40. So we're trying through consultations and Vision Zero to get things all across the city at a residential rate of 40, and then slow down on streets like the Pilette and Jefferson and Lausanne and Lausanne Parkway to some degree as well. But if there's some streets that people are looking for traffic calming, certainly give me a call or email me, and we can discuss. I know the area well and probably have a good idea of that street, but would certainly like to hear more from the resident.
Very good. I think we have Ranya's hand is up, so maybe she wants to add to that question.
Please, Rania.
Yes, I'd just like to add that our traffic calming page on our website is actually active, and it shows the projects that we have that are ongoing or pending or waiting for a plan, and it goes by a point system, so it shows you which streets are at which priority. So I would encourage the residents to take a look at that and see what streets in their area are on the list.
Thanks for that, Randy, and that's correct. There is that. I just looked at that myself just a couple of weeks ago and forgot to bring that up. So thanks. See how valuable our administration is to us councillors. So thank you, Randy.
Another request here, please add the 2000 block of Balfour to the list of speed bump considerations.
Yes, that's that's an interesting block there. There's a stop sign at Empress, and then you get to Tecumseh Road, but it's amazing on some of those short blocks how fast people will sometimes go. So that's one that we would consider. The concern, of course, is do they then just bypass that block and go we'd like them to go over to Jefferson to some degree, because that's more of an arterial road, or does a lot of traffic then be created on Glendale Street? But you see streets in Toronto that like the Balfours and Glendales and Ferndales all across, that every one of them has speed humps, and there's no getting away from one street to go to another. So we'd hate to see to have to go to that down the road, but slowing down residential traffic is a must, and traffic calming is becoming more and more a priority throughout the city, not just in my ward, but throughout the city, as you can see.
Excellent. And we have another one that asks, can we address the lighting on Westminster, and says, thank you very much for the very informative, productive session. Good job. Happy to be a part of this. So that's nice. But addressing lighting on Westminster.
Sure. So Westminster is a long street that goes from South National all the way to Iris Street. I'm not sure exactly what portion there. I wonder if it's the new construction that's coming up for next year, the new road rehabilitation from Tecumseh Road to Adstall. It could be in that area, probably could use a couple street lights. I'd have to find out. I know we just, in the Olive Road area that's under rehabilitation right now, we did add a couple streetlights and moved a couple around to make them more effective in that area. So let me see if can the resident expand on which blocks at all, Jason, or is that is it possible?
They can if they type quickly.
Yeah, the 20 are we talking the 2300,
It
2400?
said 2000 Balfour, I believe.
Okay, 2000 Balfour was back to Balfour. Yep. Again, we'd have to look at the streetlights there. I know there's a lot of streetlights, what they call mid-block. So there's one always at the end of the block and one at the start of the block, and some streets have them mid-block as well, and some don't. So that's something that we could certainly look at as well. And going back to that assessment there of Pilette Road, I made a note here to look at the 2000 block of Balfour, and also I'll look at all of Westminster Street as well, from South National to the end down the south end down at Iris and Hague Street.
And the one joy of doing this is sometimes the questions jump over each other. So if I've picked something wrong once in a while, I apologize to the people that have written in different spots, but I believe the same person has just said Adstall Tecumseh. So
There it is. Okay, yeah, that's what we're looking for. So that's where the new road construction is going to be next year. Adstall to Tecumseh. I know there's some street lights currently there, but it's a tricky street because it's got the boulevard in the middle, and people do park, are allowed to park on the street as well. So there's you could use a little bit more lighting for the vehicles that are going up and down there, but also, of course, the pedestrians who are walking at night, getting off the bus at Tecumseh Road, and walking south down Westminster to get into their various homes. A few more streetlights could be good. So let me look at that, and let me look at that project to see the streetlight aspect as well.
All right, and we have a question. We have a hand up there, and I believe the person's name is Helen. So if we can bring Helen in to speak, and she can activate her microphone, we should be good to go.
Sure.
Helen, go ahead.
Hello.
Perfect. We can hear you.
I have not done this before. I apologize. I will probably make some errors. And my first Zoom meeting ever as well. I'm retired, so I don't have a lot of need for some of these things. But anyway, I'm a little questioning here. Okay, I did submit the request for speed bumps, and I fully agree with Gary about Glendale and Ferndale, because they'll move over. They avoid Jefferson, they come to Balfour first. They'll be hitting Glendale and Ferndale. But in regards to the streetlights, did I hear you correctly? You're going to look at our streetlights as well as Pilette?
Well, I could. Sure, I could. I wasn't sure.
No, we're really good, Gary. We're excellent here. I thank you all very much, because this block, we requested and received a few years back another streetlight on our block, and we do have, we need it, and we do have fairly good lighting at night, I would say. It's just the trees that have grown so much in the last 25 years that they block out a lot of the streetlights, unfortunately, and that's a bit of a difficulty, but the streetlights are there.
Yeah, I know, Helen, there is a street light mid-block there. So there's one at Empress and one at Tecumseh, obviously, but there is one mid-block there around the 2040 or 2050 address area, right, on both sides of the street. So I wasn't 100% sure. I was just making notes, and I said that I would look at it for sure. Helen, you mentioned the trees, and that's a good question. I did have a forestry cut a lot of the trees along Balfour, Glendale, Ferndale, Ford last year, because that's what was happening. The trees were overhanging so much, kind of crossing from one side of the road to the middle, and it was affecting the illumination of the lights along some of those streets. So I think your street, I know Balfour got done further down, because I saw the actual trimmers there in the 17, 16, 1500 blocks, but did they do some trimming in the 2000 block as well? Do you know?
I don't believe
they did some last year.
Oh, there she is. You did see them?
I just because I was muted. I unmuted.
Sure.
They were on Balfour last year. I saw them. The oak trees, those pyramidal oak trees, we had that one, I believe it's 2046. My neighbor, Mr. Seraphin.
Yeah.
That tree is huge. It's enormous. And I called 311 earlier this year, and I believe they put a letter in his mailbox indicating the city they would come by and trim that tree definitely, but of course there's no idea when. Because I'm here at 2052 and I'm telling you, the light from that street light does not come over to my driveway because that tree is so large.
Yeah, Helen, I know that area well. It's close to my house. I'm gonna, when I leave City Hall here tonight, I'm gonna drive down there and get a good look at it myself. And then I'll follow up on your 311 request as well. But I know that Paul Drew from Forestry and his staff did a lot of the street cutting there of these big trees and to try to keep the light illumination in better play there last year. And I thought that they would have done that one. But let me take a look at that and if it needs to be done, I'll get on it for sure.
Thank you, Gary. As I say, they did indicate they would come out. I know it took the tree in front of my home. It took them 7 months to come and trim because it was dead limbs on we don't have the lights on my side of the road, of course, but
Right.
I had dead limbs that I was concerned about. And they came and trimmed it last February. I had requested it July the previous year. They came in February. That was fine. Now this one, I can't say, will it be a year? Will it be 2 years till they can come by? But again, maybe I'm supposed to be receiving light from the other street light that's a bit further south towards Tecumseh Road.
Yeah,
I mean, there
probably
is some
not.
light coming that
Yeah.
way, but then again, my neighbor has a huge pine tree in his front yard. I don't even see that street light.
Yeah, no, you should be getting it from that mid-block streetlight, Helen, and if, the trees
Well, I
are.
always did.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'll take a good look at it tonight on the way home. That's, as they say, that's on the way home for me in the ward. I'll take a good look at it and I'll have a good idea and I'll reach out to our forestry department and they'll come out, make an assessment and we'll go from there.
I can add too, Councillor. I know in your ward, as in many wards across the city, tree trimming requests are very high on the list of 311 calls. So there's a plethora of requests out there and sometimes it just takes time, right?
Absolutely, Jason. That's one of the most popular functions here at City that people, have trees that are in their, in their yard, but it's not really their yard. It's on the city's, what they call the city right of way or the public right of way. And they need to be trimmed and, they're hazardous to, street lights or to power, power cords and various things like that. So that's something that I've been told a 4 to 6 months wait usually is in play. But if it's a public safety matter, sometimes we can move it up a little bit quicker as well. And that's where I thought that they would have caught that tree last year when they did the 4 streets there over a 2-month period.
Very good. And we have a bit of a follow-up question, kind of a conglomeration of questions all in one here, where it's bringing up your past history again and hoping that you can use your contacts to get better access under the new Gordie Howe Bridge after its completion for people to use the green space under it as along the riverfront, and maybe work with Councillor Costante as recommended to take action on this.
Yeah, sure. And I'll look into it. I still have contacts there. I mean, sometimes that's I'm just picturing it that it could be a security matter that, sometimes public access under a bridge is, looked at in the threat and risk assessment world as problematic. So maybe that could be what the government and the WDBA is looking at. But I'd certainly like to have a conversation with them as to what they're thinking and what their intent is. I should actually go back out there again and have a good look at and see what they're doing. I know the construction is ongoing. It just was on the Ojibwe Parkway and, straining my neck trying to get a look, but I'm going to go out there and, and have a good look and I'll make that inquiry and let's see. But I got a feeling it's a little bit of a threat and risk and a public safety issue as well too, David. But I'll find out a little bit more and we can get back to you or relay it through Councillor Costante.
Very good. And I think you must have done a good job because we're about 3 minutes early, but we're wrapping up here. I think the questions have ceased. So if there's a final comment you'd like to make, you're welcome to.
Well, I appreciate that, Jason, and thanks very much to the residents I've got a passionate group of residents in Ward 8. They care about their community, they care about their property, they care about their street. And so do I. I mean, I've lived in that area pretty much my whole life, and I care about that area as well too. So it's great to work with city administration. Look at what the help that I had tonight on some questions to find out some various things that just a couple of the fine details that city administration knows and helps me out with. So thanks again to administration. Thanks to the residents. Jason, I appreciate your help. Again, people, residents of Ward 8, 519-948-0900 or G Kaschak, Kaschak at citywindsor.ca if you need to get a hold of me, and I'll get back to you quick. Enjoy your Wednesday evening. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye now.
All right, and that concludes the third of 10 ward meetings in 2021. Thank you to the Ward 8 residents for being here this evening, along with Councillor Kaschak, of course, Mayor Dokens, and our administrative team. The plan is to post this meeting to our YouTube channel tomorrow. As well, any questions that may come to mind later, as always, can be emailed to your ward councillor. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.